Welcome, fam. Nika here. Happy Sunday. I know I made a special appearance just for y'all. Welcome, guys. And you guys know I've told you that the weekends are very important. I think it's great to take time off and spend time with the loved ones. But if you guys hear some background noise, be nice in the chat, basically. There's people here. So I wanted to hop on here on a Sunday, and that means we have important information to cover as we have been keeping very close tabs on this case, guys. Hot by Gravy, hello, Pam and Jane. We continue to have access to newly released documents, and Emily is spilling the beans. And these new documents are going to clarify a lot of the BS that is still being pushed out there by a lot of the family members. They're pushing this narrative, right? Hello, Patricia. Thank you. These newly released documents, all of these interviews that we are having access to are very telling, right? Now, I wanted to first talk about Brian Kohberger because according to these documents, he intended to call 138 witnesses at trial. That's a lot of people, right? Welcome to the chat, guys. Hello, Sherry. Hello, Hot Pie. Hi, Steven. Welcome. 138 witnesses, including Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen. Okay, this was all recently revealed in newly unsealed documents. And the filing does not list any of the individuals as potential witnesses. Instead, it reads as Brian C. Kohberger, by and through his attorneys of record, will call the following witnesses at trial. Again, this list also includes Bethany and Dylan Mortensen. However, Dylan and Bethany were not the only students that were on this list, right? Because Ann Taylor, guess who Ann Taylor also planned to call? Hunter Johnson and Emily Hunter's girlfriend. And these two, the more I pay close attention to these documents, the more I am paying attention to the words that are coming out of Eleni's mouth in the interviews. Well, I have even more questions than the last live. And that's not necessarily good, right? We know these two arrived on the scene the morning that the bodies were allegedly discovered. And in last lives, what did I cover? I covered a very important piece of information that we maybe had missed originally. And this piece of information was that Emily allegedly saw a knife at the top of the stairs. This cannot possibly be the same knife that Hunter grabs, because this is a knife that we have seen in the body cam footage, right? The one that Hunter is grabbing, he is allegedly holding it the entire time until the cops get there. So that's a big boom. Go watch the last live. Today we have another big boom for y'all. Okay. Hunter was the one who discovered the bodies and instructed Dylan and Bethany to exit the residence immediately. In addition to Emily and Hunter, guess who else was going to be called? Jack DeCour, the ex-boyfriend of Kaylee. He was also on the defense list. Okay. Brian Kohberger planned, oh my God. That's so much money. Hot Pie Gravy, thank you so much. In this economy, I am so blessed. You guys want to know what's crazy? Okay, I'll let you know. I'm a big believer. I'm going to get off topic for a little. I'm a big believer in, like, when you put good energy out there, you get it back, right? And I just came back from brunch, And I treated my friend, she's a single mother and has like 3 little ones, and I treated them to brunch and I paid because, she's a single mother who's struggling financially, and I literally spent $100. So isn't it crazy? Wow. It's just like a crazy coincidence. Thank you so much, Hot Pot Gravy. Thank you. I really appreciate it. That is a massive donation. It's crazy. Thank you so much. But Kohberger had planned to call 138 people in total on this witness list. On top of that, there were also 53 individuals that Kohberger had listed as mitigation witnesses that he was going to call to testify during the penalty phase of his trial. And I want to go through some of the people because some of these people included his sisters. And we were originally told that his sisters were going to be called to the stand to screw him over, to throw him under the bus. We know that the guilters love to spread rumors, and they spread this massive rumor that Kohberger's sisters knew that he had committed this crime, and that they were the ones who had turned him in, and that they knew he was a horrible human being, and that he had a history of being creepy. Therefore, that is why his sisters were there to basically turn him in. Now that these documents have finally been unsealed, they show us that actually no, his sisters, Amanda and Melissa, in addition, his parents, Michael and Marianne Kohberger, and also a Washington University professor named John, we're all going to be going there to help Brian Kohberger. So isn't it interesting that now when we have access every day, we have access to more and more documents, more is revealed that contradicts the narrative yet again. His sisters were not there to fuck him over, to screw him over. His sisters were there to fully support him, but me and you already knew that, right? Now, I wanted to go over Emily's interview because I did not cover this in the last live, and it is so important, just as important as her seeing a knife at the top of the stairs. A knife, was this knife even tested? What happened to that knife? It can't possibly be the same knife that Hunter was holding, right? But this is a very important catch because out of Emily's mouth, it sounds like they all were allowed to make a pit stop before the police station. This is very important. You have no idea how this can completely turn a case on its head, and I'll get to why, right? Because now we know that Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk stopped with Emily at Emily's house on the way to the police station. On the way to the police station, they were allowed to have this pit stop before. Okay. And you know what's crazy? The cops did not take them there to do this pit stop. They went on their own. They went on their own. Okay. Isn't it super odd for a quadruple homicide that the cops didn't take these key witnesses to make a stop? I'm going to get to why that matters because a lot of you guys aren't. Okay, this pit stop is breaking news and should be breaking news to all of us. You know why? Because when they made that pit stop, they made the pit stop at Emily's, okay? This is the same building that was covered in red fluid and BLOOD. It's the same place where they found all of the red fluid all outside of the apartment. Across basically the entire outside of the building. Let's go over again exactly what Emily said. Okay. The cop said, on scene. So you were on scene until the police officers arrived. Okay. You stand outside. Emily says, yep. Cop said, then you guys just came here? She says, yep. Cop says, did you make any stops in between here and there? Which is very important. Just very important. Again, she just lied. She just said that they went from point A to point B. Now the cop is reiterating, saying, okay, what are the stops that you made, if you made any? She said, we went to my apartment, all of us as a group, meaning the girls, meaning Emily, meaning probably Hunter, meaning Bethany, meaning Dylan, as a group to get sweatpants and change of clothes for the other girls that did not. Y'all were already wearing clothing. Y'all were already wearing sweatpants and clothing. It was so weird for us to see how the cops first interviewed the girls. Again, we understand that it's very basic. You're supposed to separate the people. You're supposed to separate everybody that showed up at 1122 King Road. And the cops never did that. They allowed them to mingle, to chit chat in the back with each other. You're supposed to immediately separate them and take them straight to the police station and start doing testing and start doing questioning and interviews and recording everything and taking notes. Instead, here, no, the cops let them chit chat. And on top of that, the cops allowed them to go on their merry way on their own, unaccompanied by other police, by other law enforcement, to stop at Emily's place that was also covered in red fluid? How is that even allowed? The cop says, yeah, I see. I'm gonna post a picture on the thumbnail when we are done here, guys. This is just pissing me off. For a Sunday, bro, I'm going to post a picture of in the thumbnail of all the red fluid that was found outside of Emily's apartment. What did I just hear come out of Emily's mouth? They were allowed to do basically whatever, unaccompanied by cops. We have a killer on the loose, and they just let these people walk anywhere, do whatever, before going to the damn police station. How does that make any sense? Even if you are not considering Emily and Bethany and Dylan being potentially involved in the case, you would still want to accompany them for safety. For safety, because even if they were not involved, the cops should be there to provide safety for them. Again, their roommates, their friends were just unalived. You have no idea who committed the crime. There is potentially a serial unaliver on the loose, and you're letting these women just go to the fucking apartment to change on their own. Without cops, without security, without providing any sort of protection. So do you understand now? It could go either way. If they were involved or if they were not involved, cops should have been there regardless. Okay? They should have been told, no, you're not changing. You're already wearing clothing. You go straight to the police station and we're going to follow behind. Right? The thumbnails, Alicia, are the, I don't know how to describe it. The thumbnail, the picture that pops up when you search my video, that's the thumbnail. I don't care if you don't have shoes on. I don't care if you don't have sweaters on. If you're not looking cute, if you're not all dolled up, that is not the priority. We will provide shoes. We will provide socks. We have blankets at the police station. Right? Hot Pie Gravy says, maybe it's me, but shouldn't the roommates have been searched as well? Exactly. Because you just can't jump to conclusions, right? And I agree with Jane, right? They could be rid of evidence, DNA, get their story straight. What the fuck is going on? This is extremely questionable. I've never seen this before, right? Right, Stephen? They should have taken him straight to the police station and done forensics on them. Exactly. Basic common sense. They should have had a police escort. Again, even if you don't think that they were involved or had no idea, we don't know yet. The point is, even if it was for safety alone, they should have had a police escort. This is the worst police investigation ever. There's been so much wrong from the beginning. And you're right, Sherry, the reactions of cops and all of the students were off, right? None of it is right. Put tape up before clearing the house. And not only that, we know that there's literally what appears to be women's panties right outside of 1122 King Road that were never that were never even looked at. They were never even collected as evidence. You don't know who committed this crime on day one. You don't know who did it. You don't know who was involved. You don't know if this was SA uh sex Yuli motivated. Therefore, you should have taped everything off, picked up everything as evidence. And here we have cops leaving potentially evidence, panties, women's panties on the floor, not wearing booties, touching things. Now we hear that maybe there's possibly a second knife because Emily says she saw another knife. Now Emily is saying that they were allowed to go on their own to change to her apartment, the same apartment where we have seen red fluid all on the outside of her building on the second floor where she lived, allegedly, right? It's insane. I mean, did I actually hear them say they changed their clothes and showered? You know what's crazy? Changing your clothes and showering is a perfect way to get rid of evidence. Wow. Wow. That's ridiculous, right? Law enforcement, in my opinion, they don't care about uncovering the truth. How are you going to allow these people to just change their clothes, go without you? It seems that a lot of people are involved in this case. Are they wealthy? Are they powerful? Who is behind all of this? We should have known that this case was going to be a fail from the start. And now we're actually hearing that they were allowed to change their clothing. How were they ruled out so quickly? Can somebody who calls us conspiracy theorists let me know, please? How did they get ruled out? Your brain should have you going, what the actual F? Because at some point, this is no longer a conspiracy theory. When you have 1,000 plus coincidences, you have to start asking objective analytical questions and say, at some point, you can't have 1,000 of these and it'll be a magical coincidence, right? Hot pie gravy, right, Stephen? Right, Alicia? Right? You're supposed to immediately separate everybody that was there before the police get involved. I just can't. I can, I guess. It's just disappointing to believe how poorly this case was handled. I mean, even on the body cam, I was so baffled that they did not escort them to the station then. They're doing all of the questioning right outside of the home when they should have actually been escorting them immediately, right? So much of what these officers were supposed to have done correctly, they did not. They failed to do their job. And this is disrespectful and disturbing to the victims, to the families, and to all of us because we're not stupid. But if I were a family member of the victims, that alone would have I probably would have lost my mind, right? It's extremely disrespectful. Um, and then law enforcement has the audacity to get mad when the family members were asking questions. I think whatever it is that they're hiding, it's gonna eventually hit them like a freaking train when it comes out, right? And for people who ask, well, why did Brian confess? Why would he confess then? It doesn't make sense. Sometimes you're backed into a corner. If there were studies done by psychologists taking numbers, right? Because Ann Taylor had hired people to do these studies and see how biased people were. And the bias was there. It was really skewed. It was, if it went to trial, people were going to find him guilty because we know family members were out there spreading bullshit from the get-go. We know the media had ran with a false narrative of Brian Kohberger allegedly stalking people. We still have family members to this day that are spreading that false rumor and even more false rumors. So why would he plead guilty? That's what happens when you live in a country where the justice system is not perfect. No place is perfect, but our justice system is all about expediting things. It's about how fast can we close this case? How fast can we shove things under the rug? It's not about justice. But Sherry, a lot of people have mentioned that uh it's possible that Brian is a Fed or was a Fed. It's possible. We don't know though. But if he's not a Fed and he is sitting in jail, potentially falsely incarcerated, it happens all the time, right? Because when you are potentially backed into a corner of, do you want the death penalty or do you just with Steven, right? I would also give Bethany and Dylan benefit of the doubt if they called 911 from the get-go. I also the benefit of the doubt if they didn't find Van's shoes in her closet that were covered in red fluid, if they didn't find blankets that were covered in red fluid, t-shirts and all these items that were covered in red fluid. Isn't that weird? Isn't that referring to Kaylee as Kylie and saying he doesn't know her when we have seen the footage of him with her right outside of 1122 King Road? Isn't that weird? Tracy, welcome. Especially for a Sunday. And when we are now learning that Emily and the girls were allowed to go unassisted to possibly shower, that just gives them so much more time to get their stories straight. This is mind blowing. And you're right, Coco K, they never explained how their roommates were cleared, right? I've just never have seen such gross negligence in response to a quadruple homicide. And why change your clothes? They were clothed. They were clothed. What was the point of you having to go change your clothes? This was at a point in time where law enforcement didn't even know who the unaliver or unalivers were, but yet they let them have enough time to further hide or change out anything they needed to change out. Further time to get their story straight. And here we still have people trying to say that Brian actually unalived for no previous history of violence with any of the victims, that he did not stalk any of the victims. Isn't this strange? It's insane. Where does Moscow Police Department get their damn schooling? Where did y'all go to school? Where did y'all go to school? Like, I gave them the benefit of the doubt, as you guys did. We all gave them the benefit of the doubt. And what did we say in the earth was a large case, and maybe they're just low IQ. Maybe just they don't have the resources to handle such a case. We gave them the benefit of the doubt. But it's no longer looking like this is about incompetent policing. It's looking like it's about corrupt policing. Because when you are not even trying to hide this level of incompetence, we have to ask further questions. I don't understand how there are these people that think all of these are conspiracy theories when it's just knowledge from the legal documents. All you have to do is go to idaho.gov, pull up the legal documents made by detective documents, and one of the paints seemed very familiar. Isn't that weird? Just have always had that with me for whatever reason. Is it possible that cops are covering their own asses? Uh, Dylan and Bethany's ass and whoever else is possibly involved? Maybe. I don't know. But I have to get going, guys. I do have some errands to run. Thank you guys for joining me on this random Sunday live. Also, please vote when this stream ends. Don't vote in the chat because it will disappear eventually. Vote in the comment section if you can. And if you think that it is strange and concerning that without a police escort, they were allowed to change and shower after a quadruple homicide, please leave it too. Thank you guys for joining me in today's live. And some of you guys have been hyping up the channel. I didn't even know that was a thing until like a few days ago. You guys have been telling me that you can hype the videos. I don't know how you do that, but I help the algorithm do its thing. So thank you guys who reached out to me and taught me about YouTube videos being able to be hyped. I guess if you can do that, do that. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Take care. Bye, guys. Bye, James. Bye.